There's always like this 3-second pause from when you hit the broadcast button on Hangouts on Air where everything pauses and you wonder if it's just going to completely crash to the ground or if everything's going to start working.
It's a test.
But it looks like it actually worked this time. So
Wow.
it is. It's a test of your nerves. Can you
Only
deal
the
with
penitent programmer shall pass.
Can you deal with the potential that it could all come crashing down around you? So, how's it going, guys? I am Russell Holly, and I am here with Brian Fargo and Robert Marietta. We are going to talk a little bit about The Bard's Tale 4. Brian, I wanted to thank you for joining us on extremely short notice. We put all of this together in the span of like 45 minutes. I appreciate you taking the time. But I also wanted to congratulate you. I'm sure that I am not the first, but while you still have like 29 or 28 hours left to go on your Kickstarter, it's already successful. You guys have funded what you need for The Bard's Tale 4. So way to go there.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was it's so serendipitous because my career back in the day started really because of Bard's Tale and Wasteland. And now my reemergence, decades later, is now because of Bard's Tale and Wasteland.
So you've seen a really impressive, several really changes as far as the entire gaming landscape goes. From back when you were first making games in high school to what we have now. And
yeah, wasn't the first Bard's Tale for Apple II and C64?
It was, in fact, and I pitched it to Activision back at the time, a very different Activision than today, and one of the reasons they shot it down was because it was going to come on 2 floppy disks, and that was just like,
how dare you, sir?
That was an outrageous request.
So it was 32 megabytes total?
Well, the discs held about 140K or something like that. I mean, it was not, well, and in Wasteland we did this paragraph book. So it was, you'd get to a place and read paragraph 47, and people thought that was just for copy protection, but it wasn't. We ran out of disk space just for text. So yeah, to say it's hard to know where to even begin to discuss all the changes that have taken place.
So it wasn't even just one of the first big game titles that came out; it was one of the first multimedia titles that came out.
Yeah, well, I did a product, a Neuromancer. I did it with back a William Gibson novel, and worked with Devo for the soundtrack. And we took an actual snippet of the Devo song, and put it, and it ate up like a third of the disk space for like a 20-second sample. We thought that was so cool, it was worth eating up that much disk.
Yeah, I remember Neuromancer. That's actually on like the top of most top 10 lists for getting into Cyberpunk, is to play that game and then read the book afterwards. So, I mean, that's a classic title you got. And now, I mean, I can't believe that it's Bard's Tale 4, but this is actually the 5th one, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We had the Bard's Tale, the comedy version, for lack of a better word, that I did in 2004, which was just a complete offshoot, and that was kind of a funny one where we didn't have the rights to the copyright, so I could do a Bard's Tale, but I couldn't use copyrightable material. So I thought, what am I going to do with it? And then the only people who would publish games at the time, or finance games, were console oriented, so it had to be console oriented. And so again, what are we going to do? And then I thought, I've been playing all these role-playing games over the years, especially because I took a short break after Interplay, and it was the same crap over and over. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if the protagonist existed in the world like he himself had played too many role-playing games? And that's kind of where the comedy had sprung from. And so you had kind of the old Bard's Tale crowd that really wanted a true sequel, and they didn't get it with that, so they were disappointed. But then there was other people that had no expectation, and they loved it. I mean, we put it out since on iOS and then Android, and it sold, I don't know, 750,000 product units and high ratings. I mean, so now I have this split party. I have a whole bunch of people that are going, "Oh, you're doing a sequel to the comedy." I'm like, no. This is the true sequel to the trilogy that was done before.
Well, fantastic. We can't wait to see it. I mean, do you have any idea of time frame towards release that you're hoping for, or is that just completely not on the pages yet? You're still getting, is that not a milestone you've hit yet?
No, I mean, we always have to have some kind of date because your finances drive. We don't have an infinite amount of money in these things, and so we're always juggling a lot of things. So we said we put it out. It's late 2017 is the date. We put it into the Kickstarter. I want to say it's October, but I'm not exactly quite what we put off the top of my head. But it's going to be right around that date.
Excellent.
One of the tricky parts with Kickstarter, as you know, is you have to put an end date before you start.
Yeah.
Which no publisher in their right mind would ever tell the public.
Ever do.
When the game was coming out before they even began. So there's always, that's a tricky part of the equation.
So, just a quick sidetrack. Obviously you're pretty busy with making games. What are you playing right now?
My wife's had about enough of Hearthstone from me. People hear me going, "Oh, friggin' priests," and they're thinking, "No, it's a game. I'm not really yelling about priests." I'm very competitive, so that one kind of gets my juice going. And I just installed Witcher 3. I actually tried to play it on the road, had all sorts of problems, but now I got to jump into that. But I'm kind of afraid because I know it will happen once I do. But I put a lot of time, mostly into Hearthstone recently.
Oh, okay.
I try to play a lot of little indie games too that people will send my way, and I like to take a look and look at things they're doing innovation-wise and sort of learn and stay on top of all the different techniques. But it's so hard these days. It used to be, that we'd be kind of like 3 big games a quarter would come out in the business back in the 90s, and now it's per day.
I mean, speaking of indies, is there any indie or any convention within an indie game that impressed you enough to go, oh, I wouldn't have thought about doing the system that way? I mean, you're one of the pioneers, so most of the systems we would use today and maybe even call cliche or stuff, you originated.
Right.
You were back there at the beginning. So is there anybody who's really come out of left field with something you never thought would be an interactive mechanic or a gameplay mechanic that's impressed you lately?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was playing a game recently called Lifeline. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a little iOS game. They actually made it for the Watch. And what's really interesting is this kind of concept of where, like this little guy, written very funny. He's lost on this planet, and everybody's died, and he needs you to give him direction. But it's like you'll tell him what to do. It's really basic, choose your own adventure almost. But you'll say, okay, go up the hill. Are you sure you want me to go? Yeah, go. He's okay. I'll check in with you later. And that later could be a day in real time. Yeah. And so you'll get a message going, okay, sir, I'm at the top of the mountain. Now what do you want me to do? So it's the story that unfolds over a long period of time. So I thought that was kind of it's a very interesting kind of bite-sized mechanic. It's not, you'd have to use it sparingly. You wouldn't on a wasteland. You wouldn't want to wait for a day to have to come back.
Right.
But there could be aspects of it that work that way. So I thought that was the use of time in that was interesting.
Yeah, it's on iOS and Android both, and I've been hooked on that for a little while now. It's really cool that you do something, and then the game decides when it is you get to come back and play. And I found myself just stopping whatever it is I'm doing because I've gotten that notification from the little guy saying, "Hey, it's time to do this thing."
Yeah,
and
I keep waiting for you because and the thing says Taylor is waiting for you. I keep waiting for my wife going, "Who's Taylor? Why is he waiting? Who's that waiting for you?"
It sounds like
messages pop up.
It sounds like in time mechanics, though, what's impressive is you can't buy your way past this, is what you're saying. No. It's not like one of those ones where you can buy the token that says, "Oh, I don't want to wait 10 hours." That's much more unique.
Yeah.
And it's a random set of time. You don't just get waiting 24 hours or something. The game chooses how long you wait.
Okay, well, when Jen's not watching, I'll steal her Apple Watch or Android Watch and try that.
Wouldn't it be great if you heard the guy's voice? I think that would really sell it.
Yeah, I think that would. You could definitely go there. So one of the things that you included in the Kickstarter was a look at the in-game engine that you guys are working on for Bard's Tale 4. Can you talk a little bit about some of the decisions that were made there? Because it looked stunning. I've watched it probably a dozen times since the Kickstarter was launched.
I'm watching it now.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful. And the reason why we said in engine as opposed to in game is because it's not a game yet. We've just begun. However, that really is running in real time. That's what we've got. So it's not like we. Some people thought it was so beautiful that we pre-rendered it and put it out there and are gonna downgrade it later, that kind of thing. and so that's really not the case. One of the advantages, well, I guess two things, is that I love the dungeon crawl genre. I grew up with it, with wizardry, basically, and then we did Bard's Tale. And it's just been one of my favorite categories. And I've been looking at all the technology that's happened over the years, whether it's photogrammetry or some of the hair stuff that they're doing, and just basically all the lighting systems and things they're putting together, and even stuff that small teams have done, like the Vanishing of Ethan Carter, with a beautiful project, right, with not a big team. So I look at all that and go, for a dungeon crawl, it's so perfect, because you're spending a lot of your time in this first-person mode, and we're not having to deal with a lot of, it's not multiplayer. I don't need 40 things running around with AI, because that's typically what happens, right? You do something graphically beautiful, and then all the other components bring it down to a crawl, and you end up having to sacrifice the graphics to do it. We don't have that with this kind of game, since it's so based upon exploring around dungeons and looking around, that sort of thing. And then once combat starts, it becomes turn-based. So again, I don't have a bunch of bandwidth being pulled down to do all these other things, so I can keep the graphic capability quite high. And so for me, that's why I thought it was like the perfect kind of game to utilize all the stuff that was being done, technologically speaking.
I think that's actually why I've always gravitated towards your titles, and I'm sure other people probably feel this way, whether they've expressed it this way or not, is I've always felt games that you've worked on, it's more about the world and the story that's going on, and then the game seems to just be the mechanic in which you've designed so I can interact with it. But the focus in your titles has always been on those worlds, which is why I think Fallout started so strong, why Bard's Tale is just so engrossing. And I've always appreciated that there was more focus on what was going on rather than how it was going on. And I think that's what I'm really excited to see what you guys can do in this new era, is really how deep you can pull us in.
For me, I will fight for the smallest of details as I will the biggest of them, because I think at the end it always comes down to that. It could come down to two little moments in the game that were just like magic, that didn't quote have to be there, but those were the soul of the game, and I think that's what I always really try to focus on those little things, and not to sort of gloss over them as a kind of we don't need it or it's not important.
It definitely shows, and it's appreciated on the consumer end for sure.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Well, and that's the scariest part, because I was talking yesterday about, like, when we did Wasteland 2, the trick, like, you want to make these games so that when your decisions that you make are really meaningful, and it isn't that you choose to go left or right and you end up exactly the same place and nothing changes. Otherwise, you're not really kind of making the world respond to your actions. So in order for us to do that, we have to create a bunch of content that you're never going to see. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, your choices don't have meaning. And so that's kind of painful, right? Because I remember we'll do a whole song and dance number sequence that's just brilliant and funny. We love it, and we know a lot of people won't even see it because they just won't have the right situation. But when you do get to it, and if you have the right things that line up for you, allow you to see it, I know that people, they appreciate it and they get it too, because they'll go naturally through the logic going, well, wait a second, how did they know? It's like a magic trick, right? They'll go, right. How did they know I was going to be at this spot at this time with this character and that this happened? Well, the truth is we didn't know. All we did is set it up so as if it happened, and so that's why these games are so detailed to make.
They are, and I love just going through and playing again and again and seeing what I missed. I'll intentionally go back and make choices I normally would never make just to see what goes down that road. And it's nice to know that road actually goes somewhere else. You never like it when you're told your choices matter and they don't, but what is really nice is when you see the payoff and the entirely different gameplay you get from it. And it's great that you guys keep doing that, and you guys really are sort of, in my opinion, the forefront of doing that.
Yeah, well, and the more twisted and weird that road is, the better.
Yes.
So now you've done games for just about every kind of device that you have out there. Obviously we're not going to see anything as far as Bard's Tale 4 goes. But what are your thoughts on all of the things that are happening right now as far as VR goes?
I I've not experienced AR, so I could only speak to VR. Other than AR kind of freaks me out. I can just imagine where they're going to start finding ways to project it onto my pupils as I walk down the street and make me think I'm hallucinating. But that's
I think
50
that's
years
what
from now.
HoloLens is
Yeah,
for,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. What could go wrong with that? But the VR stuff is really powerful. I have, from firsthand, from having experienced it. There's just either it's been like this real physical reaction to things that I think I'm looking down over a cliff and I get that like I'm looking into the Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
That's really powerful, or the sense of scale that you can get that you can't get looking at a monitor. I played one product where this giant came walking down the thing, and I'm looking up at him, and his foot is about to land on my head, and there's this sense of this thing truly being giant that you can't do on a screen. So from having experienced it from a gaming side, yeah, I think it's going to be super powerful.
Now, going along with VR, you've done a lot of, like I said, I've followed you and seen you make new decisions with each new game and new ways to interact through the mediums and with different devices. But with the VR, have you seen anything that's promising to you as far as tactile input goes? I mean, the VR is great for immersive visuals, but have you seen anybody that you're really impressed with the new controllers that will get immersive into the VR?
Well, I liked what Oculus was doing. I don't know what those little things were called that you kind of hold. They had some kind of name for those, and I thought those were. I mean, they felt good, right, in my hands, but I haven't experienced enough to feel like I can comment on that really, kind of fairly. But I agree that's you're right. That is the other part of it. I mean, you really want to see your hands in the world,
right?
And ultimately, you want to pick stuff up. I mean, that's kind of the next step, right? So I'm with you on that, and it's just a matter of time, right?
Yeah, they'll get there.
All right. Well, Riggs, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about here?
I mean, I could gush about all the things I love about his titles for like the next couple of hours, but I'm pretty sure he has much better things to do making the next title I'm going to love.
Is there anything else you want to talk about as far as the game goes, Brian?
Yeah, we'd love to get it out there for you.
Yeah, well, I think that, I guess me thinking, generally speaking, that, I'm sort of making this type of game that wasn't possible before. So this whole crowdfunding, and there's lots of people's takes on crowdfunding about who it should be for. Is it for me, for the little guy? Is it for Sony? Who's supposed to be using this medium? And for us, we just don't exist without it. I mean, I honestly, Wasteland 2 wouldn't exist, Torment wouldn't exist, with Pillars of Eternity wouldn't exist, right? I mean, so it's just so critical that if people like this type of game and they really want the depth and all the things we're talking about, this is kind of the best chance. And there's other products, like Witcher 3 did a great job, so we're not the only one, but we certainly represent a certain kind of game that there aren't a lot of. But for Bard's Tale, I think the thing that's going to make this great is that we're really just, you've seen the graphics, and we're just going balls out on this. I mean, this, I want it to be our showpiece of what we can do graphically, and the first, what everybody's seen so far, they're very excited about. I'm a huge believer in music and singing and things that can be done there. And so we got, we started with Julie Fallis. We hired her to do some Gallic singing. We took the original Bard's Tale poem and we expanded it, translated it into Gallic, and then she sang it, and it's beautiful.
Oh, wow.
And I like music in the sense of, like to me, it's all about atmosphere, right? I mean, anybody can put X's and O's up on the screen, but how do we create an atmosphere? And it might be something as simple as you just going down the road.
Oh, no.
Tapestries.
Oh, no, we're back.
Yeah. Oh, did I lose you?
No, it stuttered.
Oh, okay. So
Google
anyway, these old Scottish working songs. And so as you're going down the road and you hear people working the tapestries and singing it, and so just bringing the world alive through the music. Mark Morgan's going to be helping us, and we'll be working with a host of talent, some of the great Scottish talent there is in the world to bring the world alive from a music perspective. Ambient sound is obviously a big part of it. and then all the visual effects, right? Which is if I'm going to be fighting and combating against creatures, I want some wonderful visual effects, and so the engine kind of points towards that. And the last part is just the combat has to be really kind of fascinating as hell. And I often use Hearthstone as an example of a really engaging phase-based combat system,
Yes.
which is, I'm on my side. It's simple, right? I got an attack power, I got a health power. I mean, there's not a lot going on, yet the nuances of it are crazy, and that's what's beautiful about it. And so I like that aspect to it, that the combat will kind of cadence-wise work like that, and so that it's like you feel like you're playing that kind of game, but yet in a dungeon. I think could be really, really interesting. And I guess, and the last part is that I like the reference. There's a product called The Room. I don't know if you played that on iOS.
I actually just finished The Room the other night. So yes, great game.
Okay, love The Room. Okay, and what that taught me was that how fun it is just to simply turn a lever and have a mechanical mechanism move, and then you turn around the other side and you open it up, right? Like even if you're not even quote solving a puzzle, it really feels good, And so I like those aspects too.
You get that click, and it just feels good to hear it click and change over. Yeah.
Exactly. So we want to take that into a level of not just because puzzles and riddles have always been a part of the Bard's Tale, and we want to do that and the physical puzzles, but I thought, wouldn't that be great to take it down to a level of even, and we did on our Kickstarter, we did an example where you have this blade where it has like two symbols, and if you line it up, you get a click and a whir, and then all of a sudden poison starts dripping off the blade.
Oh.
And that might have been a sword you've had for 20 hours. And you're like, I had no idea if I had just done that. And so there'll be things that we'll just never tell you that you have to self-discover. In order to get your items to take full advantage of what they can do.
I mean, before we go, the only other question I have is there any place that the Bard's Tale 4 team is going to be out? Any conventions where people can come? Any plans down the line for people to get a shot at a demo? Is that on the schedule yet, or is that to be worked out?
I guess yes, but I'm not sure where or when yet. I mean, when we have something. But I think it's the perfect title to show at a PAX or one of the shows because it's got great kind of over-the-shoulder appeal, and I really want to show off the combat system of what we're doing. So most definitely.
All right, when it's there, we'll be there.
Cool.
All right, Brian, where can people find you on those social things?
Well, so my Twitter is just Brian Fargo. That's where a lot of the corporate. I'm the corporate guy. I'm QA. I'm customer service. I do everything. And then of course, if you go to Kickstarter and type in Bard's Tale, you kind of jump in there. We have another day and a half left, as you say. And then inXile Entertainment.net for to see us, or is it .net? I forget what we have now. It's horrible. Just inXile Entertainment. They'll figure it out.
All right, Riggs, where can people find you?
You guys can find us on Facebook at letsgeekout.com, and you can find us for our daily evening Twitch shows at CrimsonBet, or twitch.tv/Crimson_bet. And you can find us there each night.
As you know, us Mobile Nations folks are at Android Central, Windows Central, and iMore. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, and I'm really looking forward to playing this.
I enjoyed it. Have a good day.
Have a good day.